Welcome to the Dig Endurance Podcast, where we are all about digging deep and discovering the power of emotional resilience. I'm Aaron, and I'm joined by my brother, Sean.
As endurance athletes and business owners, we have learned a thing or two about facing and overcoming adversity. We are here to share inspiring stories from our guests that will help you to find that inner strength when you feel like you are running on empty.
Are you ready? Let's dig in.
Hey everyone, rolling solo on the Dig podcast today. I'm excited that we have Kayla Bowker. She's a professional triathlete out of Arizona?
Yep, Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. Mom of four. Coach.
Mom of two. Mom of two.
Mom of two. Sorry, I doubled the number pretty quick.
My husband would kill you.
I see the chaos represented in some of your stuff, so I just,
Sometimes it feels like we have four.
Yeah, so that's funny. My wife and I have a split family, right, or a blended family. So when we only have two kids at the house, we call it that we have no kids. We have many kids, when in reality we have two. It's funny. So anyways, I'm excited to talk with Kayla today because Kayla has kids. She is a coach, an endurance coach. On top of that, you also have like a mental health coaching program that you offer to a limited number of people, if I'm correct, right? And so today I just kind of want to chat about people with busy lives, the people that you coach, the struggles that you see, because I mean, you know as well as I do. I mean, I coach. We have doctors, pediatricians. I have an attorney, a couple CEOs. I mean, just everyone's all over the place, and so everyone has a different approach to an up day, a down day, this or that. Wanting to change the training, question whatever it is. I want to go through all that with you, and then I really want to hear about the mental health program, and I want you to share about it. And if people have questions, obviously reach out to you, and then we'll kind of go from there. So why don't you give me a little bit of background? Let's hear, where were you born and raised? Where are you from? And you can keep it brief or you can go into details. It's entirely up to you if you think it's important and people will like to hear it. Please go ahead. Floor's yours.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Well, first off, thanks for having me. Great to be here. And so, I grew up in a small town called Hood River, Oregon. So it is about 60 miles east of Portland, Oregon, located right on the Columbia River. And I actually then grew up outside of that a little bit and was basically smack dab in the middle. It took me 20 minutes to get to the mountain, 20 minutes to get to the river. Okay. Fabulous place to grow up. And it really kind of cultivated this adventure lifestyle, so to speak. And that kind of not only where we lived kind of fostered that a bit, but the way that my parents kind of ingrained in both my sister and myself this very adventurous and hardworking kind of get after it's kind of lifestyle. My best way to my maiden name is Lloyd, and we always called it the Lloyd family crazy because we would do these crazy adventures. I started backpacking at the age of 6. I started skiing at the age of 2. We went on a 5-day mountain biking trip when I was in 7th grade. We hiked around backpacked for 10 days around the Tetons. We grew up skiing, running, soccer, biking, you name it. And so it's really just deeply ingrained into kind of my blueprint that adventure is kind of part of life. And that's eventually how I really kind of got into triathlon, which is, kind of what I mainly do here. So I grew up running, but more importantly, I grew up ski racing. So a lot of people don't know that I was a competitive ski racer, downhill ski racer. I raced until I was 18 for a regional team across the Pacific Northwest / West Coast. And then went to college and ran track and cross country at Gonzaga University, which is a university in Spokane, Washington. And then after I left school, I went to Utah to be a ski bum for a year. So I worked really hard all summer, told myself as long as I had $3,000 in the bank, I was going to move. And I packed up my car. My parents drove me out to Utah, and I was there for a year. Just
Familiar
kind of.
Utah. Love Utah.
I love it. Utah still feels very much like home to me whenever I go there. There's just something about the mountains, and like I said, I grew up in the mountains. I kind of feel like they're part of my identity. I don't live in them. I live in the desert now, but
The opposite.
they are definitely kind of part of a little bit of my identity. But
Yeah.
that whole kind of adventure piece really is how I actually got into, again, how I kind of got into triathlon. I was going through it was 2013, so about 10-ish years ago.
Yeah.
I was going through kind of a rough space. So I have a history of eating disorder. So I had anorexia when I was in college. And then, kind of recovered-ish from that. But what that also really stemmed a lot from was I really struggle with a lot of self-confidence, self-doubt, not believing, like I would just not believing in myself at all, and doing everything for what I thought other people wanted me to do. And that being how I made my decisions, but then being angry with myself. And so there's a lot of like self-loathing involved with that. And I went through a really bad breakup, and it kind of re-sparked a lot of that lack of confidence, lack of belief, again, going back into this like kind of negative downward spiral where I didn't actually even have like any feeling. I was broke. I barely had enough money to pay my bills and feed myself. I didn't like where my life was headed. I didn't think I was doing the things that I needed to be doing. I mean, I was 23. You don't know what you're doing at 23, but in my mind, I needed to be a doctor or something at 23, and I wasn't a doctor. That's not, or a lawyer, whatever. I needed to be something big.
An astronaut.
And it wasn't that. And it was, and so I just had like this lack of feeling. And I kind of was like, okay, something's got to change. Like something's got to change. And I was like, well, what do you need to do? What do you need to do? And I was like, well, in order to re-spark whatever it is that I need to do something really, really hard. Because that's what we did in my family. We did hard things.
Welcome to the club.
I said, well, what's one of the hardest things that you can do? And I said, well, in my head, this is a conversation I'm having with myself. I said, triathlon. I said, okay, cool. I Googled triathlon. I found an Olympic distance triathlon that was about 35 minutes away from where I was living. I signed up, trained myself, and jumped in. What I had was nothing. I had a bike that I had borrowed from my mom, and this bike, go back to like Lloyd family crazy. This bike is what her and my dad used to tour Europe back before I was born. So they for 3 summers in a row, they would tour Europe on their bikes. And this is the bike I used. So it was crotch rocket gears, basket cages, weighed more than I did. I had a helmet that my parents' dog had chewed. It had a big chew chunk sticking out of it. I was in running shorts, tennis shoes. I didn't own a wetsuit. I had a blender bottle for a water bottle. Like,
there we go.
But
you're a hybrid before you even got going.
I was kind of into lifting. That's all I could afford. I could barely afford a gym membership. So I ran, biked, and lifted weights. And I got out there and I got through the swim. I don't even really remember much about the swim, but I remember I was on the bike and I was just passing all these people who had nice gear, and they all would like look at me like, who's this chick?
What's she doing?
And I just remember for the first time in a very long time, this immense sense of passion and power and faith in myself. And it was like I had this like shit-eaten grin plastered across my face because I was like, this is me. This is what I'm meant to be doing. This is Kayla. Not the other Kayla that was the shell just walking around town, but this is Kayla. And I ended up taking second overall and falling head over heels in love with the sport. I signed up for my next one it was a month later. And then same, the second one, I borrowed my mom's newer bike. I learned to clip in that night. I took second again, qualified for nationals, and my parents helped me buy my first triathlon bike, and the rest is history. And here I am. 10 years later, I started a coaching business. I coach about 40 athletes, triathletes, and that's kind of the main piece of it. And I'm now a professional triathlete. So that's me. That's Kayla in a nutshell.
That's funny. I got into triathlon a little bit different. Definitely had struggles. Heavy alcoholic at the time, pushing 300 pounds. It was about 295. And I was sitting down on the couch, and the Ironman show comes on. Literally just like in loud. And the guy's like, "This is the Ironman World Championship." And I was just like sitting there like, "Yep, that's it. That's it. Yep, that's the challenge that I need." And then they start sharing stories. I didn't have any money. I had nothing. I went to my dad. I was like, "Buy me a ticket right now." I was at the gym swimming in like board shorts and like Walmart goggles. Literally like 2 hours later before the race was even over. Anyways, didn't have a coach or anything like that. Did an Olympic. It was terrible. Hated every minute of it. And then I finished and I was like, "This is it. This is my life. Yep, this is it." And so
triathlon has this way about it where it's very empowering and very addicting and very fulfilling, where it will beat you to the ground but lift you up at the exact same time
in every other aspect of life, right?
Yep.
I mean,
it's like amazing how its job is to grind you up and pulverize you.
Totally. It's the best.
But give you power at the same time.
I have found that my favorite part of it is the style of progression that the sport has. So we make jokes about having a chewed up bike helmet or an old bike that was used to tour Europe or whatever it is. And, there's tons of other hobbies out there. I'm not knocking. They're great. You can go play indoor soccer, do this. All I hear is sprained ankles, fights. And then that's the end of the little 1 hour, like I hurt my 40-year-old body. Right. Well, and I have found that like it never stops. Like you can have fun. You can be competitive if you want. And a lot of people do, but you're going to grow immensely on like working on little things like, oh, this is somewhere I can improve upon, and then that again translates into life, like in anything you do. We here at Forward, we have, we're about to open a detox residential facility for substance abuse. We have a private practice for individual therapy. We have a mental health program known as IOP or intensive outpatient. And so I just started training literally a week ago because I had hip labrum surgery. So I've been.
I had that.
You have? Well,
yeah.
It's, so I was training for Maryland, and it just went from 0 to 100, and it destroyed me. So anyways, so training, getting up early, coming in here, and then just helping people all day that are, we have people with eating disorders. We've got about 175, give or take, clients with autism that we serve on the autism side. And then we are pushing, 70, 80 individual therapy and IOP clients. And it's like the most rewarding blend that I've ever found. So these past couple of years have been phenomenal. And then we started doing this podcast where we bring people on like you, and then you literally hear the same exact thing. It's like, yep, that's why I like triathlon. That's why I do this. So you coach 40 athletes. That's a lot. I've got about 15, and it's a lot. I don't have an assistant yet.
So those 40 are all mine. I just recently hired a junior coach. So that's my company expanding a little bit. We're hoping to get her more to bring hers, her numbers up. But yeah, I coach quite a few. I range from 30 to 40. It's kind of my range.
That's a good number. That's a good solid number. I don't think I could for 30 or 40. But I enjoy it. I love every text message I get. I love the responses, the comments and Training Peaks, whatever system. It's phenomenal. It's very rewarding as well outside of watching people achieve their goals and all of that. So you coach these athletes, and we can chat a little bit about that. What does your year look like first before we go into a little bit of what you see between your athletes? What do you have ahead of you for the next year? I know you're heavy in training right now. We see that, but what do you got going on?
Yeah, so most of the year is spent between racing, coaching, training, being mom. It's about it. So I got coming up, actually, I have Oregon 70.3 here next week.
Yeah.
And then I'm targeting Tremblant here at the end of August. And then a couple other races kind of through November timeframe, just depending on how the next little bit of time frame shakes out here. So from like a race standpoint, that's kind of where, I'm headed. And then the rest of the time frame is just filled with training for racing, being mom, and coaching. Oh man, my day to day is extraordinarily boring. I basically wake up, I work until the kids wake up. I take them, once they wake up, we get them going, we get them ready for school, we take them to school, and then I do everything I need to do between the time they go to school to the time I pick them up. So train, work, appointments, grocery shopping, laundry, whatever it is, it needs to get done all within that time frame. Because one of my things is very rarely, and it kind of drives my husband nuts. You keep saying like, well, why don't you just take longer to do something? Like give yourself some space. And I was like, well, then if I give myself that space, then I am not going to be done in time to pick the kids up from school, or I pick them up and then I'm going to have to go do something. And for me, that's one of I have some flex with it. Like there are some days where I am busy past when they get picked up from school, but I try very hard to be done when I pick them up because I want to spend time with them. Yep. And so I smash as much as I can into like an 8-ish hour time frame that I can every day. So
better than having to work all day and not train at all. And I mean, it sounds like you've got a great whole passionate / structured / disciplined setup going that works well for you that you developed. So it sounds like you have kind of a nice, steady, progressive race plan. You just got your pro card when? A year or two ago?
Basically a year ago. I qualified for my pro card back in Texas last year, but I wanted to race at Kona another year because I didn't get to. Last time I had raced at Kona was 2018, and then I got pregnant, and then it was COVID year, and then I got pregnant again, and I really just wanted to race there because I knew once I took my professional card, I wasn't sure. You just don't know how much longer it'll take to actually race in Kona. I really wanted to race there one more time. So I waited till after Kona to take it. So last year, which would have been 2023, right after Kona, I took my professional card and I raced as a professional at Cabo 70.3 and Ironman Arizona full. And then this has been my rookie professional season so far.
So do you have plans within the professional life to make it to Kona?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, that's 100% a goal of mine. This year has been a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be. Not showing, just nothing. I haven't shown up like I wanted to. Kind of racing the beginning of the season didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. Kind of had a couple of rough starts, and then we kind of discovered a few things with just my way we were training wasn't maybe necessarily working for me physiologically. Okay. And so then we, kind of took a bit of racing break, and now did a big block, and now hoping to kind of get back into the racing with having made some of these changes. Fingers crossed. I've been having a hard time lately again, physiologically. So we're hoping nothing's going on, but
it's amazing.
We'll see.
It's amazing what race breaks do for us. We always underestimate that. And then we actually do it, and you feel like you're getting out of shape, but you feel so much better when you start to like catch that stride again. That's what I've found every single time. I think everyone knows that. No one wants to do it because, I mean, just in general, racing is just fun, right? Everyone loves racing. So you mentioned that you were trying to find your groove or what works for you physiologically. Are you coached by yourself, or do you have a coach?
Nope, I have a coach. Yep.
Okay.
I don't have the mental capacity to coach myself.
I,
I, I, I'm so busy. And I want somebody else doing it for me.
I've my head sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, and I'm just like, I think for 1 minute, I'm like, there is a 0% chance you would be accountable for. There's just no way. It's not going to happen.
It's a lot harder. I think everybody needs a coach. You need that outside perspective, because we are our own worst critics. And for me, the other reason I need one is because otherwise I would just be going to my husband constantly, and I still do it sometimes, and it drives him nuts. He's like, I don't know what you need to do. And I don't need to be, badgering him with my own indecisive issues sometimes. So,
my wife,
yeah.
I don't care.
That's what he says. He's like, well, what do you want me to say? I was like, well, I want you to make the decision for me. He's like, I can't do that. Well, please, come on.
Did you have a hip labrum tear?
I did. So, 2015, I wasn't really doing much triathlon because I actually took a year to do a bunch of marathons. And then I wanted to jump into the Ironman, the long course triathlon in 2016. And I was having early in the year, we were out running. I tripped and fell. Stupidest thing. Like I tripped on a rock and fell.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I started when I was having some pain, I kind of ignored it. Just thought, no, nothing. Ended up running 4 marathons on it. And the last one, I ended up walking from basically mile 10 to the end. Like I called my dad, like, I can't finish this. You need to come get me. And he's tried. And he's like, well, I can't get to you until mile 24. It's as soon as I can get to you. So you got to make to mile 24. And by the time I got to mile 24, I was like, well, I'm 2 miles out. I can jog it in. So I ended up jogging it in to a sub 4 hour. Still, I was pretty proud of that. And went and got an MRI because I was like, this is something's wrong. And yeah, I had a labrum tear, got surgery at the end of December, and in April, I won a half marathon.
So December, January. Okay. I'm at 4 months, no running.
See, I was running within 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think my doctor's a little more strict because I'm a little bit bigger.
When I had it happen, I went to one doctor, and he told me I'd never run again. And I said, yeah, I'm not working with you. I'll go find somebody else. And I went to a different doctor, and he said, yeah, we'll fix it. You'll be fine. Fix it. And for me, it was instantaneous. I know it doesn't work that way with everybody. It was literally like once I got over the 2-week surgery discomfort, I was like, oh my God, I'm not in pain. This is amazing.
Yep. It was bad.
So,
it was bad. Same thing. I mean, as well as, I stopped training, but my body was like, well, we're still able to consume 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. You'll be good.
It's easy to do.
Work out that way. So anyways, I'm back at it and everything's great. I can't run for another couple months and we'll take it from there. And I'm hoping to hit Ironman Texas in April. I think it's a good goal.
Nice.
That'll give me a little bit of, I like that raise. And so let's talk about your mental health program. That I want to hear about this. Hear what you do, what your style, just tell me about it. I have questions.
So it's geared towards like mental performance. So kind of like for endurance athletes, it's definitely my niche is endurance athletes, right? That's what I spend my life in. That's who I know how to talk to endurance athletes. But I have worked with other athletes, just other people in general, in kind of like more along the lines of like how we talk to ourselves. So really kind of geared towards cultivating self-belief, confidence, and improving our self-talk to then optimize your performance within triathlon and daily life. And I really started this because I got really into it because I saw the power that it did for me. Right. I think I alluded to the fact that I struggled very hard with confidence issues. And this led confidence issues that led to the eating disorder. They led to me being in bad relationships with men and like friends that I just were not serving me very well. And it was in one of the things that really kind of was a big change for me was, and I saw the powers. I literally woke up one morning, back in kind of 2013, right after I started, kind of triathlon. I woke up one morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, that's enough. It's enough. That's enough talking to yourself that way. That is enough letting people walk all over you. It's enough. That's not you. That's enough. You are now going to start standing up for yourself and standing up for who you are and believing in the power that you already have. And that was a huge shift. That was the very first big shift for me.
Yes.
And then, over the years, I had a couple more of these like big standout time frames where all the big shifts in my life came from this innate belief that I could do something. It didn't matter what other people thought. I believed 1000% that I could do it. And that meant I was going to do it. A couple of examples is starting this business. Where If You Take You is my triathlon and mental performance coaching business. And in 2007, so let's see, I got married in 2016. 15, so 16, somewhere in that 2017 range, I was working in a corporate job as a program manager, and I was had only been there for 6 months, and in 6 months time frame, I already worked my way up from 0 to being one of the best program managers at the age of like 25, 26, and was making really great money, was slated to be one of the highest earners at the company, but I was miserable. I would come home crying. I was working like 60, 70 hours a week. I hated it. I hated it. And once again, I just kind of like internally had this conversation with myself, like, well, what do I actually want to be doing? And I wanted to be sharing this passion that I had for triathlon with other people, because I saw what triathlon did for me internally, and I wanted to help others find that as well. And I literally came home one day and I turned to my husband and I said, I'm going to start coaching. And he says, okay, what do you mean, like on the side? And I said, no, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start a business. And he was like, oh, okay. So you are 26 years old and you're about to be making 6 figures and you're just going to quit that. Yeah. Yep. I'm going to. Because I knew that I was a good coach. I knew I could be a great coach. I believed 1000% that I could start a business and I could make it successful enough to where it could be my full-time job, and that I could help other people to find what I found. So I did it.
You knew what rewards were coming if you were successful.
Yes.
The mental rewards of helping people achieve goals it's hard to find something better.
It is. And so there's another example of what, this belief, how powerful belief is. And that all came from how I learned how to talk to myself in a way that uplifted me. And that just over and over, I've had times in my life where that has been the empowering piece that has changed the path that I've been on. And I wanted to help other people do that. And so that's why I started this side piece of Where Your Feet Take You, which is mental performance. And it is very geared towards, again, my niche is more along in that kind of mental performance time frame is focusing on cultivating self-belief and improving your self-talk and confidence through actions that empower your focal points, so that you have places to turn to when you get these negative thoughts in your head, and learning the difference between how do I reframe negative thinking into positive and productive thinking that is going to get the best out of myself, which then kind of creates this self-belief.
Which is all translated into the endurance.
Everything that we do.
And us people that obnoxiously seek more, and more is never enough.
Yeah. And it really also helps within life. And, because if you can learn to reframe negative thinking when you're on mile 20 of an Ironman, you can learn to reframe thinking when you have to go into a scary meeting with your boss.
Absolutely.
Or you get an email that just crushes you at work. And instead of letting that completely derail your day and then maybe derail other things, you learn how to take a step back, calm that critter brain, calm that parasympathetic nervous system that's going haywire, and actually get the result it is that you're looking for out of it. This in relationships is the same way. And I mean, I saw that with myself with relationships. I would have never met my husband if I hadn't have done some of this internal work myself, because I wouldn't have been open to him at all because of the negative headspace that I was living in. And then I wouldn't have the life I have. So
internal work is a very strong word. A lot of people don't like to do. I'm one of those guys that has to do internal work constantly, just out of, natural tendency to lose focus on things, or maybe become a little bit over energetic. Like I'll give you a really good example. Over the last week, as I've gotten into training, it went from like jump on Zwift for 20 minutes at, 10 watts to make sure that your hip doesn't fall out. And, now I'm swimming and riding for 2 hours and 1 hour, twice a day within like a 2-week period. Right. And so what comes along with that is like that I've got this, or this is for me feeling again, or runners would call the runner's high. I feel like I've been high for like a week straight. It's just, just going back.
And that identity that you have within triathlon is now back too.
That's literally what I was going to say. I'm like, literally the identity is just like, hey, remember me? And then of course that translates into my attitude with my athletes. I do intake and admissions calls with people that are in crisis a lot of times. And I find myself back in that, like, let's help them find like that first step of awareness or making a step in the right direction. It's like, I remember why I got into this. So in the end, the injury ended up actually being a huge blessing. And I'm just kind of on the ramp, back up. My brother, who's not here today, he had hernia surgery and I coach him. He's a very competitive, very disciplined person. It's been very challenging for him to hear me as a coach be like, no, you can't do a half marathon next week, or no, you can't do this. And so I've actually been able to teach him what like low cadence over gearing workouts do for you, and what this, you know what I mean? And so he's learning all these different terms, and now all of a sudden he's a cyclist and he doesn't even know it, And so, anyways, watching people find like what they used to do, but adapting in other ways, and then that it reminds me of why I'm in the endurance world. It is such a mentally rewarding thing, like in all aspects of life. I feel like that's why we do what we do, and it's funny because your story is exactly the same as mine with just different details. I mean, everything you said, from like, this is me, this is Sean, this is Kayla. I mean, I remember that like literally like yesterday. I'll never forget it. It's always going to be the same. It's a driving force in my life. That's why we do what we do.
Exactly.
You mentioned you were pregnant twice. So what did that look like for you? There's got to be a ton of pregnant triathletes, marathon runners.
Oh yeah.
Questions go, up and down, and chats with my family where people are pregnant. Oh, can I run when I'm pregnant? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just do it. Oh, the doctor said, I don't care. Run.
Yes.
What did you do?
Pregnancy, the first time around for me was really hard. So I've been very, if you've been following me on Instagram for a while, I was very open with my struggles with being pregnant during my first pregnancy.
First and second?
2019. So I've actually had 3 pregnancies. I had a miscarriage in between my 2 kids. So my first kid is 3.5 currently. He was born at the end of November November 2019. Okay. And then we got pregnant again in like August timeframe of 2020. I miscarried in September. And then we got pregnant again very quickly again after that. And we had our second kid. He'll be 2 actually next week. So he will be 2 at the end of July here in about 7 days or so.
All right.
So I have a 3.5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Yeah. They're exactly 18 months apart.
Sure.
Yeah. And 2 boys, which is a
lot.
they are the most high energy children.
Yep.
We get stares when we go out places, and I know like I'm mom, so maybe I'm biased, but over the last like 3.5 years, I've realized that I'm not totally biased. This is a legit fact. These children are chaotic and crazy. They have the most energy. Like my 3.5-year-old, he yesterday we go to the pool almost every day, and he came sprinting through the splash pad and did a front flip into the pool. And there's like 6 people that went. And immediately behind him comes the almost 2-year-old who dive bombs into the pool right behind him. And these people are like, what just happened? I'm like, yeah, there's my children. Cool. But I did not want kids. I didn't want them. I'm a fiercely independent person. And I'm also not very emotional. I'm very black and white. And I just didn't want kids. I never really found a connection with kids at all. In fact, I just never really cared for them. And my husband had to talk me into it. He kind of had to be like, no, I think this is what we need for our family. And I kept putting it off. A piece of that was my husband's 5 years older than I am. And so I was young when we got married. And so I just kind of kept putting it off. And finally, we had been trying for a while and it wasn't happening. We tried for almost 2 years and kind of gave up. I finally said, okay, well, if we're not going to get pregnant, then we're by this time frame, we're done. I want to be done for the year. I can't do this anymore. I want to focus. And we ended up being pregnant. And it was a bit of a shock to me, and I cried. I was really upset. And pregnancy was hard for me. In retrospect, I probably had prepartum depression a little bit. And I really struggled. I struggled with feeling connection with the baby. Like, right. You have all these mom, like society says that the second you're pregnant, you're going to feel this insane love for this unborn child. And I did not have that at all. Zero connection at all. I just felt like this walking thing. And it didn't feel like me. The only time I felt an actual connection to my first kid, Skylar, my first baby, was when I raced. So I actually raced 4 times when I was pregnant with him. I raced until I was 20 weeks pregnant. I did 4 half Ironmans. So I raced at 8 weeks pregnant, 14 weeks, 16 weeks, and 20 weeks.
Half Ironman.
Yes. Half Ironmans. That is the look that I would get.
Sure.
For those of you that if you were seeing this, you would have seen the look.
I'm sure.
But
you on like, except for when you were passing like guys, they're probably like, oh.
Yeah. But I felt that was the only time during this very tumultuous time frame that I felt powerful. I felt strong. I felt independent. I felt like my baby was there with like helping me, that they wanted to be a part of it. And it sounds very silly, but that's how I felt. And so that was the only time I felt that way. And so, that's kind of how pregnancy was for me. And then I had him, and now I want another one. I have 2 and I want 1 more. Like having kids for me was one of the best things I ever did for me. Again, I mentioned that I'm not a very emotional person. I'm not touchy-feely. I'm very fiercely independent, and I'm fairly fierce. Most people find me very intimidating. I didn't have girlfriends for a reason. And I'm still fairly that way, but having kids made me love in a way that I've never believed that you could love. Yep. I don't love anybody that way.
Yep.
That there's something different. And So, having kids was one of the best things for me, but I've been very open for women, and I got a lot of flack during my first pregnancy for what I was doing, that I was still training. And I was very open about the fact that I still wanted to become a professional triathlete, that I wasn't going to give up my career. I wasn't going to give up being a coach. I wasn't going to give up my dream of becoming a triathlete professional. And I got a lot of hate for that in my first pregnancy.
Imagine the spectrum of comments that were received.
Oh, horrible. I had one from a family member who told me that my child would think that I loved my bike more than them. And I lost it. And that was rough. That was not okay in my opinion. And that's not, and I just constantly got this, like, you shouldn't be doing these things because and you should only feel love for this unborn baby. And I was like, no, I don't. And that's okay.
You should be walking your path, not your own.
This is my journey. This is my pregnancy, and I am not a fragile little flower who can't do these things just because I'm pregnant. And so I was very, very open with it. And and I continued to be open and really kind of try to help empower other moms to, one, not be afraid to talk about the stuff that sucks with pregnancy, because it sucks. Being pregnant sucks. You're not your own human. There's something else taking all your energy. You lose a sense of identity. It's hard. You can't eat the same foods usually. Like, your energy goes, like, there's a lot of really hard things about being pregnant. But just because you don't enjoy that journey doesn't mean that you won't be an amazing mom. It doesn't mean that you won't love your child more than anything in the entire world. And that's an important thing for women to understand. And so I've really kind of created a little bit of a platform like this. And now I've coached quite a few pregnant moms through pregnancy and postpartum into their first races, because I kind of created this little bit of a community and this knowledge that, hey, she's walked the walk, she's talked the talk, she knows what it's like to, have babies, have a miscarriage, walk through all those pieces, and then still go after this dream and this goal of, just because you had a kid doesn't mean that you have to be put into this box of you're only mom. If you want to be put in, that's what you want, that's amazing too, because it's your choice.
Right.
But that was never something that I was not going to be a good mom if that's all I became. I have to cultivate these other pieces of me and stand up for these other pieces that are important. And again, if we go back to that, like that self-belief that I talked about earlier, is the power. The reason I'm able to stand up for those things, because I believe very strongly that I can be all these things. I can be a great mom. I can be a professional triathlete and run a business, because I believe very much in myself and the power that I have to be able to do these things.
Yeah. Earlier you were talking about when you were younger and you had some struggles and some challenges. Basically what you were saying is you were basically trying to do what you just assumed others would want you to do, or what you thought others thought you should be doing, right? Because
that was the only way that other people would like me, right? I was a really shy kid. I had a hard time. I just really, really shy. I'm very, 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 very introverted. It may not necessarily seem like it when we're here, because in these type of situations, I can be extroverted. I can put myself out there. Like, my husband never understood why I was a good program manager, because I did a lot of sales with it. And he says, it's just not who you are. And I said, yeah, well, it's work. Work is its own box. Outside of life, I'm extraordinarily introverted. And that was what helped kind of cultivate some of those pieces of that struggle. Is in order for them to see who I was, I had to do what they wanted me to do.
Well, that's probably why the bike trainer works out so well for you.
Yeah.
The introverted personality would definitely be, I have to have like a full rave going on when I'm on the trainer. So you have adapted your challenges, you've made it through, you have basically independently found a way to be passionate about what you do in life, whether it's coaching, training, kids. You've mentioned multiple situations that you struggled with. I think one of my last things I'd like to hear your thoughts on are, to the people out there, and they're everywhere, the ones that are struggling with, like, they're in that kind of center section where they're trying to do what they feel in their gut they want to do, but they're afraid to do it because they think maybe other people don't think that that's what they should be doing. It could be a job. It could be training pregnant. It could be anything. All right. There's just numerous situations. How would you say that you best adapted to those challenges, and that, if anyone's out there with the same struggles or just kind of in a downward slump or a spiral, what would you say to them? And I'm sure
well, for me, can I swear on this? Can I swear on this podcast? Basically, I just stopped giving a fuck what other people thought about me. Just stopped. No longer cared.
That was the enough is enough thing. Like, I'm moving forward now.
And that was really key for me. But really, it's, you have to be your own person. You are your best ally. You are the strongest person for you. And if you can focus on standing up for who you need to be, you're going to get the most out of yourself. There was I recently saw it on, I was watching the Tour de France just recently, because I'm unbelievably addicted to it.
Don't spoil the stage.
I want to be a bike racer because I'm totally in love with the sport. One of the directors, they were interviewing one of the directors during this year, and what they said, in sport, you can't be someone else. You have to be true to yourself. Be the character you are, and then you get the most out of you. And that's it. You be the character you are by being true to you and what you need and what you want. You're going to get the most out of you. And what they were getting at is that they were comparing Pogačar and Vindigo. And Pogačar is kind of spicy. He attacks and he's a little bit more jumpy and really he's kind of a character. Like he will dance on the bus and et cetera, et cetera. And Vindigo is a lot more stoic. He's a lot more structured. He's a lot quieter. And they were basically saying, like, should they try to emulate each other? And the guy was like, no, they need to be their own person. Pogačar needs to be spicy and Vindigo needs to be stoic. That's who they are. That's their character. That's when they get the most out of themselves.
I mean, I could not agree more with that statement. I think that's why it's so individual, and that's a perfect way to close on. I have found that no matter what I do, no matter what I believe, no matter what I think, at the end of the day, I had to walk the path that I walked every day. It's my path. People can suggest things, say things, but in the end, it's your path. And if someone suggests something that is just not okay with you or whatever, it's your path. Maybe that's the path that they wish they were walking on, or maybe right.
Usually it is.
Almost always it is, right? And I have learned that over the past few years, quite a bit. And your circles get smaller. You start to individualize your own needs, your path. You build love around your circle, like your kids, your husband, maybe some of your athletes that you've helped accomplish huge. Your circle gets smaller. I think I said this a few weeks ago. Your circle gets smaller, but what you get back out of that circle exponentially gets better. So, and
that's a really good point, in that all of this, yes, is very individualized and very independent. These choices that you have to make to, like, we everything that we have within kind of mental performance really kind of comes down to the choices. Like when I always talk about like failure, and people like to fear failure, but I always say, well, failure is one of our best motivators. you get a choice on how you want to look at failure. Do you want to look at it as something that means I'm not ready or as a motivator? And those are individual choices. But to help you walk that path takes a team. And you work on learning to find the people that you inherently trust to help you walk down that path. Like you said, whether it be a significant other, a best friend, a mom, dad, sister, coach, there's always people out there that are willing to help you to walk down that path and help kind of guide you down making these decisions that you need to make to be the person that you want to be.
Oh, and the energy you is for your benefit. It's not to benefit them. And you know it. That's a great way to end this podcast. Your story's great. Everything is just, it's like you did it, you adapted, you struggled, you adapted, you learned. Your ability to adapt and just move forward it's very impressive. I'm really glad. I'm really glad we had you on today. It was exactly what I had hoped for. Kayla Bowker, from Where Your Feet Take You. You can find her on Instagram. Sounds like she can handle 40 athletes, so maybe like another 50 will head your way after this.
Perfect. Bring it on. We've got myself. I got my junior coach, Erin Oliphant, who is an amazing junior coach. She's took third place at Kona last year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Recently qualified again.
And we'll share some too.
We like to, our goal at Where Your Feet Take You is to cultivate passion within ourselves through sport. And that's what we like to focus on. So yeah, you can find me. Instagram is probably my number one spot you can find me. And that's just, if you type in Kayla Bowker, you'll find me, or Where Your Feet Take You, you'll find me. Otherwise you can always head over to our website as well, which is.
They have questions, reach out to you, right?
Yes, please do.
Very responsive. All right. Thanks, Kayla.
Very open, very responsive. We like to hear from people. So
stories, and we look forward to maybe chatting again sometime in the future. And good luck with your season.
Love to. Thank you.
Thank you.